Hey guys, welcome back to Rocket Gyan, my fellow space tubers. And oh god, today we are back again with another stream and another debut launch. So this time, Japan is doing something interesting, and yes, it is indeed interesting. And the rocket which you are right now seeing on your screen is a brand new rocket, the H3 rocket. uh, Previously they were using the H2A or H2B rockets for their everyday needs. The workhorse was that, but now they are focused more on the cost reduction, ease of manufacturing, as well as high availability. And these all features are suitable and best suited for this rocket. So, welcome to the stream, everyone. Alvaro Chavez and Jason, how are you? I hope you all are good. And I myself is very excited for this rocket because um, this is indeed some sort of game changer because the characteristics it brings in and the cost which it delivers, the performance is just mind blowing. So we will see about this. And yes, it is looking good for today's launch. And so yeah, without any further ado, let's just jump into it and see what this rocket is all about. So in this config only, in this picture only, you can see it is kind of very similar to the previous H2A or H2B rocket which used to come. And yes, once this is operational, those rockets will become I think H2A is already has already become an operational, but H2B will also become an operational once this rocket is fully, you can say, kind of. H2B is also gone, because this rocket is supposed to replace that rocket, and now they are testing it. Obviously this might fail today. This is just a first flight, but still uh, once they are testing it, they want to improve on this. So we can see this one to become the workhorse of JAXA. So talking about the config, so here it is. So it is an interesting config which you can see. So here there are two, what should I say, four variants, sorry, not two, four variants. And today the variant which is flying is H322S, which is the second highest in terms of payload capacity. So this H330S, H322S, what does these numbers signify? So if the first letter signifies the number of engines on the core stage. So the H330S will be three engines, three liquid fuel engines. Zero, the next number signifies the number of solid rocket boosters, which you can see there is no, so there are zero. Zero, no, there is a zero number here. And S signifies the length of the fairing. So this one you can see is a short one, this one is a large one, so that's why we have L. And today the rocket which is flying is this one, SC22S, which means two engines, the liquid fuel engines in the core stage, two solid rocket boosters, and a short fairing. So this is the config which is flying today. And talking about the different parts of the rocket, which we all want to see. So this rocket is a two-stage rocket. Okay, so you can see we have one core stage which has a liquid fuel engine, the second stage is also a liquid fuel engine, and optional boosters which you can or cannot attach based on the requirement. So this one will have, you can see. So talking about the fuel which it uses you with the oranges color and all those, you might have guessed it already. This uses hydrogen and liquid oxygen as its fuels, the hydrolox, which is famous for causing that, what should I say, the Rofi's ignition, right? The sparkles before the rocket ignites, as well as very high specific impulse. And the unique thing about this rocket is that this one is using the expander bleed cycle on the first stage for the very first time. So in this world, no one has ever tried a expander bleed cycle engine on the first stage, because there are so many challenges with it, which we will discuss when we will have a look at the cycle. But yes, it is difficult to do for the first stage, the expander bleed cycle, but somehow Japan is Japan, it's obviously technologically advanced. They have managed to do for the first stage itself, and it you can say people do not invest their time and money on their first stage. um, uh, the expendable cycle for the first stage, and there are also reasons for that, but for now it is how it is. So yeah, hey there Pratim, hi Jason, hi Wildflower, hey Spaceman Exact, welcome to the stream and thank you so much for that. Cool. Yeah, so what I was saying, yes, this is the first with the expander bleed cycle. So this one is a LE9 engine which it uses in the first stage, and the LE5B3 engine which it uses in the second stage. So talking about the first stage, the LE9 engine produces 1471 kilonewtons of thrust, which is very high. But expander bleed cycle is like known for a very high thrust, which is needed in this config, for the first stage, which is good. And the second stage is a LE5B3 engine, and this is the third generation of the LE5B. So LE5B was previously used in the H2A also, and H2A, H2B, S2 rockets, and now they will be the third generation of the second stage. This engine will be used in this stage, and then we obviously have the fairing. So you can see the various parts of it, the gas jet system, which is nothing but RCS, and yeah, so you can have a look at it. So this is how the rocket would look like. Initially, when you will see like this, you won't feel much of a difference between this rocket and the previous H2B rocket, but this one is a bit wider, so it's a fat boy, you can say that. And yeah, okay, cool. So talking about the LE9 engine, so this is the LE9 engine, and this runs on mm, expander bleed cycle. Okay, so so here you can see we have uh the fuel flowing in the liquid oxygen is this, the liquid hydro. So what happens in the liquid, let me just show you. This image is just for your reference for the picture itself, like the how the engine would look like. Let me just show you the actual simplified version of this. So what happens in this expander bleed cycle is, and why is it difficult? So in this cycle, there is, as the name suggests, it is an expander. Okay, so the gas, there is something which is expanding. Okay, so what happens, the fuel is pumped through the combustion chamber as well as the nozzle, which changes its phase from the liquid to the gaseous phase. Okay, and once it changes its phase to that, it is used to run the turbine. You can see it is fed to the turbine, and then since it's a bleed cycle, so therefore it is discarded. In the normal expander cycle, what happens, this exhaust is pumped back to the combustion chamber, but the problem with that becomes, there is a problem with that also, because since the exhaust is pumped back into the combustion chamber, it might feel like it's a good way to do it because it becomes a closed cycle engine. And yes, it is kind of a good way to do it and has much higher ISP. But the problem with that is the low thrust, because when you are pumping this gas into the combustion chamber, the combustion chamber pressure would increase more than the, this exhaust pressure. So you don't want that, because then the back pressure problem would come, the backflow of the fluid problem would come, which means rather than the um, things going outside of the nozzle, it would start to go back, because obviously fluids flow from the low pressure to the high pressure. So yeah, this is how it is. And the problem with that is that, and that is the reason why we can't achieve high thrust in the expander cycle. Okay, but in expander bleed that is not a problem, because we are having the fuel to go through the turbine, and then it is just discarded, just like an open cycle engine would do. And because of that, the pressure, we should not worry about the pressure here, and we can pump in as much as fuel we want and get the higher thrust. So this is a simplified version, and yes, it is kind of good. But the problem, now let's discuss the problem with that, why the world has not produced a expander bleed first stage. So there is one thing, when the if you have studied maths, when the surface area, if the surface area, let's say, increases by the 1 unit, um, let me just say, the not the surface area, if the length increases by 1 unit, uh, L unit, the surface area increases by L square, and the volume increases by L cube. Okay, so which means the volume increases 3 folds and the surface increases 2 folds. Okay, so what happens is, since we are relying on one thing only, the expander, so the it has to change the phase, right? And in the sea level engine, there is a problem that we don't have a bigger nozzle, right? We If we have a bigger nozzle, we will face the problem with the pressure difference, and that would not be a good thing for the engine nozzle. Okay, the sea level engines are basically smaller engines, which you have seen, obviously, and because of that, the surface area decreases by 2 folds, but the volume decreases by 3 folds. So what I mean is, when the fuel is pumped inside the sea level engine, then the phase is unable to change, because it does not get enough surface area, enough volume of fuel can't go inside of it, and the surface area also decreases, and the heat exchange does not happen properly, and the phase does not change. And if the phase does not change properly, the turbine would not rotate, and if turbine would not rotate, the turbo pumps would not rotate properly, and the whole engine would collapse. So this is the problem with the first stage, why it is not used. But somehow Mitsubishi and JAXA have solved that problem, and it would be very interesting to I we don't have much information like how the things would work in the expander bleed cycle for the first stage in for the H3 rocket, but I would definitely find out, and it's a very interesting thing. And yes, it has got a very high ISP because of this. So yes, looking forward for this new rocket to do its job. And talking about the second stage engine, this is the LE5. This is the LE5, but the LE5B third gen would be used in here. So this is what I was talking about, the generations of the engine. So H2A and B had LE5B and 5B2. H3 will have LE5B3, third gen of the second stage. Then the H2A had LE7A, now it is having LE9 for the H3, and this is supposed to replace all the existing fleet, which means the only one rocket would remain for the JAXA, which is the H3, and will become the workhorse of the rocket, the company. Okay, so thank you so much, John, for that 50. uh Dude, you are a lifesaver, I am telling you that. Thank you so very much, John. I really appreciate your funding, and you are single-handedly carrying this channel. So thank you so very much. Okay. Um, Moving on. So this is some of the facts about this rocket, which you can see why this was made. So ease to use launch vehicle, high flexibility, high reliability, high cost performance, and we know the LE9 thing. So yeah, so this is how it is. So talking about the payload capacity and all those things. So the payload capacity for this rocket is around at max config, it is around 6.5 tons to GTO. In comparison, if I go to, let's say, GSLV Mark 3, which also comes into this range only. it can carry up to 4 tons to GTO. So yes, it is a heavy lift launch. It's not exactly a heavy lift launch vehicle, does not come in that category, but it is medium to heavy launch vehicle. So yeah, this is how it is. Now we have talked so much about the rocket, and we have missed everything about this satellite. So this satellite is the ALOS-3, which is nothing but Advanced Land Observation Satellite, known as Daichi, if I pronounced it right. It's an Earth observation satellite, and it features a multi-spectral sensor operating in the visible and near infrared range. So this one is going to the sun synchronous orbit, but not exactly sun synchronous. It's more like a sun synchronous sub recurrent orbit. We'll have a discussion about that also. But talking about the characteristic of this one, okay, let me just tell you that. So this will have a resolution of around, so this is the third generation in this Earth observation satellite. This has a resolution of around 2.5 to 0.8 meters at Nadir, and swath width will be 70 kilometer at Nadir. And it is a multispectral, so um, that is that. So it supports around 6 bands of spectrum, and its mass is around 3 tons. The design life is around 7 years, and so it will be deployed it at a 669-kilometer orbit. And what I was talking about, this subrecurrent and sun synchronous, let's talk about that also. So in sun synchronous, what happens is, you can see the angle between the orbital plane, which means this angle, this angle, this angle, throughout the year remains the same. The sun means the orbital plane and the sun is kept at almost the same angle. Okay, so because of that, the satellites, mostly CubeSats and all those which does not have let's say the fuel, uh, prefer this orbit because it provides a constant means of sunlight for them. Okay, and then we have the sub-recurrent orbit, which is a satellite go around the earth several times a day, and after a few days it passes through the same area at about the same time. So it's a recurrent orbit, but it takes some days to be recurrent. So for this one, it will be revisit time will be of 35 days for this cycle for this one. And yes, so this is an Earth observation satellite which will have you know, as the Earth observation satellite, you can see you can have more so many use cases of this: marine pollution, drift ice situation, sea surface temperature, earthquakes, inundation, volcanic activity, deforestation, land use, vegetation, topography, land surface temperature, and the list just goes on. So yeah, this is all about it. Let me just see if we have okay, still are waiting for that. I do have a live
今のレベルでどうでしょう今の
situation. Uh, if you have any questions and anything, you can totally ask me, guys. I'll try to answer it if I can. And yeah, okay. So so much. Okay, thank you so much, Gopal and Wildflower. Okay, so isn't that guidance system law only for military rockets? What guidance system laws? I don't understand. Uh, so this is the live views of the rocket, guys. So you can see on your screen. This is a fan-made. Let me, if I can. So this is the fan-made one. So they do cover all the Japanese rocket launches. So there's that, and we have the live views of the rocket right now. Wildfire. Okay. There's restrictions on rocket. I didn't know about it. Um, that is good to know. I didn't know about that. Maybe some sanctions might be imposed. Yeah. Yeah. World War after World War II, there must be some sanctions which might have been imposed, but I don't know the situation right now. They are definitely making rockets for sure. Not so sure about the missiles, but yeah. Okay. I think there is the official stream also starting. Let me see if I can get a hold of it. Okay, I will right now. It's just things playing in there. Okay, so the um, so this is I think what they are trying to say is this is Princess. I'm not so sure. I'm not Japanese, but they are um maybe sharing the nah. Mm, I won't judge. I won't spread anything which I don't know. But I think that that ship was supposed to ship this rocket components in here. So yeah, I hope that is the case. I am not so sure about the Japanese here, but I think that is the case. And also one more thing about this rocket. This rocket has been delayed for so long. In 2013, the development of this rocket from the government, the green signal from the government for the development of this rocket was given, which means all the POC and the research was done way before that. And this has been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed only so many times. And hopefully this one gets a launch today. And now you can see, for all those people who are in Japan and living nearby, so these are the viewing point where you can go and have a look at your first ever rocket, a newly developed first ever heaviest rocket, uh, to see how it performs. And hopefully, since this is a first launch, things can go wrong. I haven't seen a first launch going right in my lifetime. I haven't seen that. And for some reason, there is some satisfaction in my mind, in my heart, that this rocket is gonna go and do its job. This is not gonna fail. For some reason I have that satisfaction. I'm not so sure. They have designed a whole new rocket with whole new engines in both the stages, but still I have that thing. So yeah. Okay. uh, it's all it really appreciate, guys, if you can if you can share it with your friends, this stream, it would be great, because then it would be reached to a lot of people. And obviously it would help not only this channel but to other people, that something new is happening in the rocket world, which you should look out for. This is the world's first rocket with the expander bleed cycle first stage. So obviously, and you can now see the VAB and where the rocket launch pad is. So launch pad 1 and launch pad 2. So the launch pad 2 is gonna launch the H3, and the launch pad 1 has does launch the H2A rocket. So yeah. And this I have already talked about the variations of the H3 rocket. So oh, there is one more 24L. So this is the most updated information. For some reason they have not updated that in their website. So they have the 4 config, and they are not having a 3 engine config with this SRB. So this is how it looks like. And I guess now it should shift to the official stream. Let me just Bear with me, guys.
Ready for test flight number 1 to be launched from the Tanegashima Space Center with DAICHI-3 on board, and we are scheduling to make the launch at 10:37 or thereabouts. Good morning, everyone watching the live streaming. We will be providing you with a live broadcast of the H3 launch vehicle launch loaded with Daiichi-3. My name is Kotomi Mimura, responsible for PR at the JAXA at Tanegashima Space Center. I'm very much looking forward to the launch of H3 with you all. My name is Isao Kotani. I'm an engineer at JAXA, and I will be providing you with technical commentary today. Thank you for joining me today. Kotani-san, we have finally arrived at this date. Finally. And H3 project started back in 2014, so
I guess I
now
should
the
have.
ninth year. We are finally here. Now,
No, this is not a person who is providing the commentary.
Is also available in English simultaneous translation. Please go to the link in the YouTube description.
Yeah, so that was the case. The person who is providing the commentary is not from Japan.
it's the H3 launch vehicle. Yes, there it is.
Wow.
Finally standing there. And where we are right now is a place called Takezaki Observation Deck, located some 3 kilometers from the H3 launch vehicle. And Daiichi-3 is contained in the section called fairing at the tip of the launch vehicle. Now, Daiichi-3 is an informal name. In English, it is referred to as ALOS-3, Advanced Land Observation Satellite 3. Now, as for the weather today, beautiful weather today. We had a lot of overcast days recently, but it's a great day today. So there were a number of days with a lot of cloud covering, so we were feeling somewhat anxious. But let me read out the information from the Meteorological Agency. Now, based on the information released, the Tanegashima region is covered by somewhat of a high pressure, but the calm weather is continuing. And so there is no forecast that is going to have negative impact on the launch. Fine weather, and the 3 meters of the wind from the northwest, and the 16 degrees to the temperature. So calm weather is expected to continue for a while.
That is
what
good.
are the conditions required for launch? Well, today we
Whoa.
have a great fine day and wonderful weather for a launch. But we don't feel that there is any the issues with the weather for the launch, and we check various things when it comes to weather. Say, for example, the strength of the wind, amount of precipitation, or the condition of the cloud. If we have a cloud nearby, then what type of cloud is it? Is there any lightning or not? So we actually look at all these conditions, and only upon clearing all these conditions, then we make the decision that it should be okay. So the maximum instantaneous wind speed must be less than 20 meters per second. In terms of precipitation, it must be less than 20 millimeters per hour. That's quite a heavy rain, but at that rain, we will not be able to launch. In the case of a cloud, you may hear of a frost layer.
Wow.
There is ice grains contained in the cloud, and if that is very dense, then that could potentially cause lightning. And so we need to be quite mindful of that, and we check to make sure that these conditions are met. And so weather is one of the important conditions for launching these launch vehicles. Yes, that's right.
That's a very beautiful launch site indeed.
At this point in time, but we continue to check the weather condition until just before the launch. Now, towards the launch, there is a place called a Launch Control Center, LCC, that conducts various types of remote work. And we have a camera link to LCC, the Launch Control Center. And this is it, and making preparation towards the launch. So we have people standing up, we have people sitting down. Now, the Launch Control Center is the control center for the launch. It's one of the key units. What they do here is that they do various inspection until the launch. They will provide instructions. The fuel is fully loaded right now,
Translator
but
is
they
doing
will
an
involve
amazing
in
job.
refilling the fuel. And so all the preparation from the launch, prior to the launch, is done from here. And also the condition of the rocket as to whether it is appropriate or not is looked at as well. The people sitting here are experts, and they are professionals of the various systems in the launch vehicle, and also the person overseeing the entire the process called the launch conductor is also located here. Now we are located about 3 kilometers from the launch pad. Why do we have to be so much far apart? Well, I was saying that the fuel is being filled, and the fuel is the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. They are somewhat of a hazardous fuel. So when filling, just in case of the unlikely event of the accident occurring, so we actually secure a safety distance. So that's a radius 3 kilometers. So there are no one within 3 kilometer radius of the launch pad. And so the launch to control the center is done remotely as well. In the past, the launch control room was located very close to the launch pad. That was because back then the remote control technology was not all that great, but today you can do everything remotely then. And well, for H2A, we still have that launch control center that we used to use in the past as well. But 3 kilometers is the distance that we secure in order for ensuring safety. So what type of operation take place at the LCC? And they're continuing to monitor, and towards the launch, they're making the final preparations. And about 240 seconds before the launch, the automatic countdown sequence starts. In other words, switching or preparation would be done automatically. Despite it being automatic, it's not the case that people don't do anything. They continue to look at as to see whether there are any abnormalities, and if there is any issues, they will stop the launch immediately. The H2A rocket and H2B rocket, which is going to be retiring, in comparison to those, the staff number has been reduced. Now, I was in the LCC when we were launching the H2B, and I remember there being more people there. And now with H3, we have introduced many new technologies. We have also introduced many automated inspection and the schemes. So we have been able to reduce headcount. I think the number is probably about a half. But this is a test flight, and so as we proceed towards operation, we'll be able to reduce staff more, and maybe a third or fourth in comparison to H2A. That would be the target. And so the number of people will continue to be reduced. So let me introduce the schedule for the broadcast today.
Well, first we will introduce the overview of the H3 launch vehicle, its mission, as well as the messages from our viewers and businesses. Then we will play a video of H3 launch vehicle history and background and introduce the flight sequences. That is the schedule for today, and today's mission is this. Well, first of all, a lift off.
Oh, okay.
And then SRP-3 separation, and then a fairing separation. Then the first and second layer separation, and then finally ALOS-3 separation. That is the sequences for today.
So this was the mission profile, which obviously I didn't find anywhere. But
So
yeah.
I'm getting all excited. So now regarding this H3 launch vehicle, Kotani-san, could you please talk a little bit about it? Well, H3 launch vehicle has been developed by JAXA and Japanese businesses. It is really a combination of those efforts. A feature is that soon after we did the development, we wanted to use this for private sector business purposes. So from the design stage, a private sector had played a very important role. So since H2A, there's been a great improvement. Version up, I would like to call it. So it is highly reliable, and whatever satellite it is, you can mount it So it is flexible, and also cost effectiveness has been improved as well. So when we commercialize this, not only Japanese satellites, but also we try to work with international satellites as well. So if you could look at the image projected, the length is about 63 meters, so it is quite big.
Yep.
Actually, this
5.2
first flight,
meter is the
57
diameter.
meters, so there is a difference. The tip called a fairing, there are two types. There is a short one and a long one. And it depends on the size of the satellite, you can change it. And this time round, we use the short one. So it is slightly small, 63 minus 6 meters, 57 meters is the length for the short one. The diameter is about 5.2 meters. And the size, you may not be able to understand this, it is about the size of a 20-story building. I just wanted to say how large it is, just to give an idea. If you look close up, it is
Wow.
so big that I cannot really believe that it is going to the space.
Just look at this beautiful launch site. This is just amazing. And yes, it is indeed a big rocket, 20-story one. So
The first layer is about the same,
look at
but
that.
the second one, H2B, is slightly narrower. So it is a 5.2 meters all the way up. So it looks quite heavy, doesn't it? Yes, that's right. So far, H2A rocket and H2B rocket carried the word Nippon on their sides. Nippon means Japan in Japanese, but now it says Japan. Yes, that's right. The Japanese baseball team is doing quite well. So the word Japan is well known to a global audience. And we talked about making inroads into the global space as well. So we wanted to change the name to Nippon to Japan, which can be understood by international audience. This is quite meaningful. So the world this H2 rocket is launch vehicle is trying to realize, as well as the development journey. We have a video, so please enjoy.
Okay, so this rocket is actually being designed for commercial usage. So that's why they want international audience attention on this rocket.
ロシアが世界初の人工衛星スプートニクを打ち上げて以来60年以上にわたり続いてきました。宇宙開発の目的は多岐にわたっており、例えば宇宙という未知の領域を研究し、宇宙や惑星の成り立ちや生命誕生の秘密を解き明かす知的探求心の解明が最もイメージしやすいかもしれません。さらに今や当たり前となった天気予報や道案内、自動運転など私たちの生活に欠かせないこれらのサービスの実現には宇宙開発による技術が使われていることを皆さんはご存知でしょうか。地上の暮らしをより便利にするために生み出された技術が発展を続け、宇宙開発と交わりお互いを高め合う。宇宙開発はもはや私たちの生活になくてはならないものになりつつあります。私たちの暮らしと密接に関わる宇宙開発に欠かせないのがさまざまなものを宇宙に輸送するロケットです。では世界中にロケットが多く存在する中でどうして国産のロケットを新たに作る必要があるのでしょうか。それは日本が独自にロケットを持ち続けることで生まれるメリットがたくさんあるからです。例えば先ほどのような私たちの生活を豊かにするサービスを実現するには日本が適切なタイミングで必要な人工衛星を自在に打ち上げれる環境が重要になります。それには日本独自のロケットが必要不可欠になるのです。 H3 は現在運用中の H2A の後継機として今後20年間使い続けることを見据えた日本の新しいロケットになります。国内外問わず数多くの人工衛星を定期的に打ち上げることを目指しH3 を安定して使い続けることが目標となります。そのためには日本だけではなく世界中から選ばれるロケットを目指さなくてはいけません。 H3 は3つの要素、打ち上げたい時に打ち上げられる柔軟性、これまでのロケット開発で培った高信頼性、低価格の実現を目指し誰もが宇宙空間を活用できる時代を目標に徹底した利用者目線で使いやすさを追求していきます。2014年のプロジェクト始動から8年、 途中にはメインエンジンの技術課題を克服するために2度の開発計画の見直しもありま
You
した。
can see the static fires here. And yes,
開発を主導
that or pinkish flame is a remarkable no remark. It's a mark of mark of the ablative heat ablative heat covering on the nozzle.
構想から、約10年のロケットです。打ち上げの成功がゴールではなくて、我々はその打ち上げの成功が出発点だと思っているので、早くこのロケットをデビューさせて世界中の方々から使っていただけるようなものにしたいと思っています。
さまざまな困難を乗り越えついに完成した H3 ロケット。試験機1号機の打ち上げはすぐそこまで迫っています。新たなるフロンティアへ、未来を背負った H3 が間もなく飛び立ちます。日本の技術で宇宙輸送をリードせよ。
All right, so yeah, it was kind of a commercial, but yes, it's a commercial rocket, so commercial actually makes sense, I guess. So yeah, there's that.
新たに開発した LE9 になります。これまで日本が培ってきたロケットエンジン技術を集結するとともに新たな技術にも挑戦し、 H3 が目指す柔軟性、高信頼性、低価格を高いレベルで実現することを目指しました。エンジンの燃料に液体水素、酸化剤に液体酸素を使い、搭載する人工衛星の重さや投入する軌道に合わせて LE9 エンジンを2機ないしは3機を束ねてロケットに装着します。 LE9 は H2A のメインエンジン LE7A と比べ推力が約 1.4 倍にパワーアップしたことで、固体ロケットブースターなしで衛星を打ち上げることが可能となりました。また重い人工衛星を打ち上げる場合には固体ロケットブースターをつけるなど、従来の H2A や H2B に比べて幅広い打ち上げが可能となります。このパワーの大きいエンジンを安くかつ信頼性を高く実現するため、これまでのロケット開発で得た経験と新しい技術をバランスよく取り入れました。その中でも特徴的なものを3つほど紹介します。まず LE9 で採用するエンジンの燃焼方式は従来のものよりシンプルな仕組みにすることでより高い安全性を実現しました。またエンジン全体の部品点数を減らすことができ、これにより高信頼性と低価格を高いレベルで両立することが可能となります。次に LE9 には 3D プリンターで製造した部品がいくつも使われています。今ま
Whoa.
でロケットエンジンには形が複雑で溶接やボルトを使った部品がたくさんありました。これらを 3D プリンターで一体成形することで大幅な部品点数削減、コスト削減を実現しました。そして電動バルブの採用でいろいろな作動範囲で燃焼することができるようになります。これにより燃焼試験の回数を大幅に削減することができました。このような最新の技術の粋を集めた LE9 エンジンがたどってきた道のりは決して平坦なものではありませんでした。 JAXA では2005年から約10年間技術実証を目的とした LEX エンジンの開発を行い、2014年から LE9 エンジンの開発が本格的に始まったのです。開発の段階ではさまざまな技術面での問題が発生しました。その一つ一つの壁に向き合い、生じた技術的課題を確実に解決するために、そして今後20年使い続けることができるロケットエンジンに仕上げるために2度にわたり試験機1号機の打ち上げ計画を見直しました。
この LE9 エンジンは2002年から研究が始まってですので、
Wow.
ほぼ20年ぐらいの時間をかけ
Just
て
to how
開発して
2002.
きたエンジンになります。でもこの技術というのは、結構厳格で、我々開発陣のその、願いとか希望といったものというのは、なかなかその 通用しない思い通りにならないということが、結構ありました。ある意味その残酷な現実というものを突きつけられているという部分があります。ただ最後ですね、何としてもこの世界初のエンジンを開発させてやるんだという、関係者の皆様、これは我々 JAXA だけじゃなくてメーカーの方とか、部品のベンダーの方も含めた、強い思い、そういったものが実を結んでこのエンジンの完成にこぎつけることができたというふうに思っています。LE9 エンジンの開発担当者として一点の曇りもなく自信を持って H3 ロケットの初号機に使えるエンジンを仕上げることができたというのは万感の思いです。
That was indeed a full technical overview of the LE9 engine, which I loved. And yes, Wildfire talking about the ablative coating, which is outside, not inside, but it reacts with the fuel which is coming, means the exhaust which is coming out, and causes that flame.
Team before the project was called HS3 project. It was called Next Base Rocket or Launch Vehicle or something. I was in the concept team.
And
so
that engine took around 20 years of R&D. Wow, just imagine that a person's whole career is actually based on that engine itself. You know, if you most of the career life, job life, work life, or maybe a whole life also for some of the people is dedicated to this engine itself. Just
So this
wow.
is Tanegashima Space Center. Do you know what it's called? Well, it's obvious. This is the most beautiful launch site in the world, right? Yes, that's right. I hope that viewers can see this. The ocean is very beautiful. Yes, this launch site tends to be near the sea or ocean. This is normal practice, but it is really close to the coastline, and you can see the ocean view. This is quite unusual. About half a year ago, I moved to Tanegashima Island, but even today, I'm always excited to go to work because I can see the beautiful scenery. You can feel refreshed, can't you? Yes, that's right. So now it is 10:08 a.m., so 29 minutes away from the launch. So now let's learn about the relationship between launch vehicles and satellites. Mr. Kotani, could you please explain? Okay, so what is launch vehicle? As was mentioned by Mr. Okada, project manager, it is like a delivery service, delivery a vehicle to the space. So that is the
Okay,
role
so
of
if you are just joining in, guys, let me tell you a brief about this rocket. So this rocket is a H3 rocket, the world's first expander bleed cycle rocket. The expander bleed cycle engine is in the first stage, so yeah, the world's first in that. And this thing can carry at its max config around 6.5 tons to geosynchronous transfer orbit. And this one has like 4 variants of it, and it has 2 engines, 2 stages, 2 engines, LE9, LE5B, both runs on hydrologs as evident with its orange form. And it is carrying ALOS-3 satellite, which is nothing but an Earth observation satellite, to a sun synchronous subrecurrent orbit. So it's a kind of a different orbit, but in short, it's a orbit in which the revisit time will be around 35 days. So yeah, there's that. And this is the first rocket, the whole new rocket. Basically, there is no like components which have been uh, taken from other rockets or so. So it would be interesting to see how this performs. I have not seen any rocket succeed in my life in the first attempt, so let's see if it does or not.
大地からさらに大型化、高性能化した光学セン
So
サー
yeah, this is the ALOS-3, which is the satellite which you can see. So that you can see the resolution will be around 2.5 to 0.8 meters, 30 centimeter of the ground resolution, and the 70 kilometer of the swath width. So you can see right now it is having 2.5 meter, and you can see the variation in the details of it, right? So, and it is put in a kind of a polar orbit, so obviously it is able to map the whole Earth. And yes, it's an Earth. This is hyperspectral, the multispectral, basically Earth observation satellite, which means it will be able to observe in different spectrum, the infrared, the ultraviolet, which will help in to gain much more data instead of just a single spectral. So, which is amazing. Actually, the Pixel company in India is also doing that. So, uh, it is very useful. It contains tons of information, and yes, it is good. So, this is an Earth observation. So, all these things, the natural disaster, the tsunami alerts, and all those things can be done with this satellite itself. Yes, actually, there, Pratim, the shape and the config looks very similar to a Kerbal rocket for me. So, yeah. Um, I guess this, yeah. So this is what they are talking about for the ALOS-3 mission.
の会社さんが関わっているので、正確に人数は分かりませんけれども、だいたい30社以上の方々が関わっていただいております。まずは皆さんにこの映像を見ていただきたいと思っておりますと同時に、自分もぜひ見てみたいと思っております。
Oh, it's getting a bit hot, isn't it? I put off my jacket. So how did you like it, Mr. Kotani? Yes, that's right. So since compared to Daiichi Class, Daiichi-3, the resolution has gone up so much. So when it comes to the resolution, if you use a digital camera, it may be easy to understand. It's like a number of pixels. So that is a 70-kilometer observation range and 0.8 meters. If you compare that to the number of pixels, if you have as many as that, you can recognize a car. I think it's still hard to imagine, but if it's a TV, it's like a high vision, a TV becoming a 4K camera, a TV. So it is quite a evolution, isn't it? Yes, that's right. But if you get a more high resolution data or images, then the amount of data you can take per day increases, but sending that to the ground would be challenging, right? Yes, that's right. Artificial satellites are circulating around the Earth, but the data can only be conveyed above antennas of the base stations. You can have communication with the satellites. So only when they pass above the antennas, you can have the interaction. So you cannot get all the data at once, so you have to wait for the next turn. So that is the challenge we face today. To resolve such a challenge, part of the solution is a optical interaction system. So project manager Yamakawa is going to talk about the technology for the data relay of the Earth observation satellites.
So, okay. All right.
静止軌道衛星光データ中継星を用いてユーザー衛星と呼ばれる地球観測衛星などより低い軌道を飛行する衛星との通信を中継するシステムです。データ中継星を用いた通信システムはユーザー衛星と光データ中継星の間、光データ中継星と地上の間の2つの通信回線から構成されますが、そのうち、前者の方の通信回線を光通信化したものが、ルーカスの大きな特徴でございます。データ中継システム自身がメリットを持ってまして、広い通信範囲が可能ということでございまして、トータルで送れる通信量が大きくなること、あとその広い範囲に対してどこでも、コマンドを打つことが可能ですので、利用範囲が広がることが、期待できます。さらに光データ中継衛星化することにより、光のメリットである高速交代規制とか、またアンテナを小さくできるために機器自体を小さくすることが可能になります。宇宙光通信、とりわけ技術的難易度の高い衛星間通信という観点では JAXA は欧州の宇宙機関と並び世界でフロントラインに立って軌道上実証を含む研究開発を進めてまいりました。そ その集大成として、実用に供しうるレベルの光衛星間通信を実証できることがルーカス開発担当としては非常に大きな喜びでございます。加えて特に今回第一3号により得られる素晴らしい観測画像の伝送になり、観測データが広く皆様のお役に立っているそのプロセスの一環として寄与できることを光栄に感じております。
So, Kotani-san, what did you think? Like I said, how can we actually transfer a large volume of data? If we use a method like this, the large amount of data can be transferred, and I was quite impressed as an engineer myself. So the data that they were transferred, how are we going to utilize that in our society? That's going to be a lot of fun to think about. Yes. In regards to those people who are involved in the data usage of DAICHI-3 or ALOS-3, we've asked about how they are using that data and how they're distributing data. Please take a look.
パスコは航空写真測量の会社として創業し、今年10月で70年を迎えますが、今では航空機以外にも人工衛星、車両、ドローン等により得られるセンシングデータから地理空間情報を収集し、社会課題や経営課題に対するソリューションを提供しています。パスコは地上運用システムの整備、衛星運用、そしてデータ配布事業を JAXA さんの共同事業者として担います。またデータが広く普及するよう利用事例作りを進めてまいります。第一3号のデータは地図データの整備、災害対策、スマートシティやスマート農林水産業並びに環境監視等広い分野での利用が期待されております。第一3号で観測したデータは見てみるというパスコのウェブプラットフォームから入手することができます。見てみるでは利用者は関心エリアや観測期間を設定するだけで簡単に衛星データの検索閲覧をすることができ、続いて処理仕様を指定することでオーダーを行うことができます。第一3号から得られる高品質で利用用途の広いデータは衛星データ利用の市場をより一層ダイナミックなものへと変貌させていくと確信しており、私たちがその一役を担うことを楽しみにしています。衛星データが多方面で使われるよう JAXA さんやパートナー企業とともに取り組んでまいります。
土砂災害研究部では豪雨や地震、火山噴火などに起因する土砂災害の被害を防止・軽減するため、土砂災害のメカニズムや対策施設の効果的な整備、警戒避難や監視対策などソフト対策に関する研究を行っています。土砂災害は山岳地や丘陵地で発生することが多く、まずどの場所でどのような種類や規模の土砂災害が発生したのかを把握するために第一3号のデータを使用する予定です。土砂災害分野で特に変わる点としては、やはり災害発生後の初動として重要な被害状況の迅速な把握が可能となることが大きな変化と思っています。近年では気候変動の影響や大規模地震の切迫性が指摘されており、土砂災害の頻発化や激甚化が懸念されているところです。防災・減災、国土強靭化は国を挙げて進めており、第一3号の打ち上げが成功して観測を順調に開始し、災害時には大いに活用されることを期待します。
作成や更新のための技術開発を担う部署です。その一環で衛星データを利用し、効率的に地図を更新するための技術開発を行っています。国土地理院が整備している電子国土基本図の更新に第一3号が撮影した画像データを使用する予定です。電子国土基本図はさまざまな地図の基礎となる我が国の基本図で、2021年9月に施行されたデジタル社会形成基本法において公的基礎情報データベースという正確性や最新性が確保された社会の基盤となるデータベースの一つに位置づけられています。大きく4つのステップがあります。ステップ1は測量用航空機による空中写真撮影、次のステップ2が図鑑、地図を描く工程です。ステップ3が現地調査、最後が編集で図化したデータに市町村名などの中期に関する情報を加えて作業が完成します。第 第一3号の解像度は初号機の 2.5 メートルから 0.8 メートルに向上しています。分解能が向上し、判読できる地物が増えることは地図の精度向上に直結します。今回第一3号のシミュレーション画像を25000レベルの電子国土基本図で利用可能か評価したところ、海、河川、湖の縁となる水害線や道路、鉄道、建物、植生、土地利用といった基本的な地物についておおむね問題なく判読可能であることを確認しており、ステップ1に加え電子国土基本図の図鑑にも利用できると期待を寄せています。また第一3号のデータから都市開発などで大きく変化している箇所を自動的に抽出し、電子国土基本図の更新すべきエリアを効率的に選定できるような技術開発にも着手したいと考えています。地図作成に携わる我々にとって待望の打ち上げです。第一3号から国土の様子を捉えた画像が届くのを楽しみにしています。
And many people will be utilizing data from the DAICHI-3 or ALOS-3. I'm very much looking forward to seeing for myself. Now, on this occasion, we invited messages in support of H3 launch vehicle and DAICHI-3 ALOS-3, and these messages are posted onto SRB3, and they're actually attached to the side of the rocket. And so when you're inside the building, you can actually see these messages right in front of you. I saw it myself, but it's in a very visible location, these messages. You can actually read these messages. And so, people are able to feel that, there is a strong interest and there is a strong support, and, they are able to feel a great motivation here. I actually sent in a message myself with my initials. And we have seen the involvement of many companies and organizations as supporters, and they're providing a lot of support through their web pages and through events. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful support. And the message of support from everyone will also set off to the space with the launch vehicle. So next, we have a video that explains the state of preparation of TH3.
So here you can see, guys, how this rocket is actually looking forward to assembled. Basically, this is the most probably a green run test, dry run test. There's the ROFIs and the ignition of the booster. That was a static fire which you just saw. This is the payload bay, and you can see the satellite getting integrated with the fairings. Obviously, this is how it is transported. This fairing is a shorter one, and there is a larger fairing also. So there's that to accommodate large payloads. And this is the rollout to the launch pad from the vehicle assembly building. So whoa, this looks cool enough. And yes, Pratim, this is the rocket which will launch the LUPEX mission, the mission which is in collaboration with the JAXA and the ISRO to study the south pole of moon.
The units here and doing the assembly. H2A and B, they also went through more or less the same process, but as I said at the outset, this is quite large. A3 is quite large, and so it was quite a significant amount of work. And towards the end of the VTR, you were able to see H3 being moved, and we were actually there, and we were actually walking right next to it, and I was in tears almost with in anticipation when the A3 was moved. Now, it's actually on top of the launch pad, and beneath the launch pad there is a lorry, a truck that actually will transfer the launch vehicle, and the speed is a little bit slower than people's walking pace. And it's only 400 or 500 meters of travel, so it only takes 30 or 40 minutes for the travel. But when you actually look at it from right next to it, it's quite a grand view. A3 launch vehicle is kind of embedded into the launch section. You may have realized this when you watch the video. And but at the start of the launch, the ignition may not look all that visible, but the launch vehicle is quite large, and the assembly building was we use the same as those for the H2B, and there was an issue with the height, and so we had to actually embed the launch vehicle into the launch pad.
Wow. Oh, ho, ho.
Next, we would like to show you a video of the A3 launch vehicle flight sequence.
So this animation looks weird, but yes, it is a fat boy, so can't say for sure. No. So this is the H3 mission profile, which should, this is how it should work. Theoretically, at 156, the SRBs should be separated. Then the fairing separation should happen, exposing it to the space payloads. And 5 minutes 5 seconds, the first stage would be cut off, and it would be separated almost at the space, and then the second stage would will ignite to complete the operation, and then finally the LOS will be launched to space. Is there a hold? I don't think so, Depratim. And hi Valerie, how are you? I hope you are doing good. And yes, this launch site looks very, very similar to the launch site we have in New Zealand.
LCC. Well, people do look quite relaxed.
Okay. Yeah, this one is very similar to that, the Electron Launch Center, Electron Rocket Launch Complex.
And we have also a video linkage to Range Control Center, RCC. And each of the tracking station is remotely controlled from here, and they also monitor the state of the vehicle in flight, and in cooperation with LCC, all the command regarding the launch is executed from here. So we have LCC, the Launch Control Center, and the RCC, the Range Control Center. We have these two the control centers. They have different roles. In the case of a launch control room, they are responsible for preparation work towards the launch, and also countdown. They are also responsible for RCC, the Range Control Center. They are responsible for tracking the vehicle after launch, and so there is the ground station, but the operating the ground station is also responsibility under Range Control Center. The launch is imminent, and so from here we're going to utilize the live image from the launch pad and live commentary from RCC.
This, I must say, this is kind of a balanced stream. The Arianespace is, I don't want to talk about it, but this one is actually good. We got to know, got to see both the things, the rocket as well as the that. Oh, so we have the countdown, guys. I'll need to update mine.
It's 8 minutes to launch. All systems are now in their final operations. The restricted area have been vacated and cleared.
Right. updated now, and we are almost 7 minutes from. Okay, till
安全艇準備完了。
Range safety system is go.
射場系準備完了。
Range system is go.
so we are looking in the polling of the launch today. For today, looking good. T minus 6 minutes 30 seconds remaining, and just look at this beautiful rocket accompanied by this beautiful launch site. Wow. Although the fairing is kind of very short in comparison to the rocket, um, the aesthetically, but obviously it does the job, so I'm not complaining about it. So we are looking good. We can see the fuel being boiled off from the. So this one more thing is that here.
6分前です。現在車上の天候は晴れ。気温摂氏15.5度。西南西の風毎秒0.8メートルです。
It's 6 minutes to launch. The current weather at the launch site is fine. Temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. Wind is 0.8 meters per second from the west-southwest. The weather is still a go, and currently there is no constraint for launch.
本日の打ち上げ予定時刻は日本時間の午前10時37分55秒です。
Today's scheduled liftoff time is 10:37:55 seconds a.m. Japan Standard Time.
Okay. So it's looking good right now. We are T minus 5 minutes from the launch. Everything is looking good. Yes, the rocket shaming would not be tolerated for sure. And
It's 5 minutes to launch.
衛星系準備完了。
Satellite system is go.
everything is looking good. Wow, it's happening, guys. We should be seeing a beautiful launch today. The H3, the first ever launch of the H3, and hopefully, guys, this should go as per the plan. I'm very confident about it. Don't know why, but my gut feeling says that this will be my first rocket which I will see being successful on its maiden flight. So let's hope for that. We are looking good for the on-time liftoff. So talking about the launch window for this one, it's around 6 minutes only, so they will have to be very instantaneous. If anything goes wrong, they cannot continue right now. So T minus 4 minutes 4 seconds, and we should be seeing oh yes, they adjusted the exposure finally. if
Automatic countdown sequence has been initiated.
if
現
this
在ロケットの管制は竹崎発射管制塔から行われています。
A3 is now operated under the command of Takesaki Launch Control Center.
if this would have been ISRO, no, we would have seen that exposure level all throughout the launch.
14、13、12、11、210、209、208、
And now the countdown, you can see, you can hear people the
Our second stage liquid hydrogen have been initiated.
cool, the top off is getting good cool down now. S2 is retired. Yes, this will take over all the S2A family, Angel. S2 family basically. So finally 3 minutes left, guys. It's looking good.
3 minutes to launch.
Yes, Depratim, for sure. Okay, this is happening. I am
液体酸素、液体水素、地上油圧開始。
Pressurization process of first stage liquid oxygen and hydrogen have been initiated.
I am really excited for this one.
The power has been
You can actually see, guys, this rocket is actually sitting inside the launch pad, because this is done to fit this rocket inside the VAB. That's what they said, and you can see it here on the launch pad itself, because the VAB supported the height of the H2A rocket, which is slightly smaller, and this is a bigger rocket. So to have that VAB only, they literally embedded the rocket inside the launch pad. That's why it looks like this, and a bit smaller also because of that, but it is not. T minus 2 minutes remaining. Everything is looking good. The range is supporting. The systems are green and the weather is all clear. Finally, T minus 1 minute 40 seconds remaining, and we shall see a new rocket being flown to space.
Pressurization process of a second stage liquid oxygen have been initiated.
Hey, this is happening. Okay, cool. I'm really excited. We might see a whole sequence till the this SRB separates in the sky all itself, because the skies are clear for today. T minus 60 seconds remaining.
1 minute to launch.
Yes, Carpenter, guys, just hit the like button and send your best wishes to this rocket, and hopefully this succeeds in its maiden flight.
Flame deflector cooling is initiated.
Okay, finally. T minus 30 seconds remaining. You can see the ROFI's ignition have been initiated. That's why those... No, I don't think so that is that. But still. T minus 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition!
Main engine start.
And... Oh... It's in the chat, guys. This is a hot fire abort. This is not going today. But the rocket is still standing on the pad. Whoa. Please don't explode. That sound is not good. Okay. She's standing still. Nothing is going wrong here. But yeah, so there was an hot fire abort, which you can all see. Hot fire abort is nothing but you could see the engine was started for a second or so, and then it was aborted. Not so sure why though, but this will be scrubbed for today, guys, for sure, because the launch window was only for some time, this which means for 6 minutes only. And whenever there is a hot fire abort, it rarely happens that they go with another launch attempt, because hot fire abort means there is some technical issue. Not so sure what was that, but you could see that this also happened with the, if you remember, the Delta for Heavy. The hot fire abort happened, and the issue was with the ground support equipments. The pressure regulator was having some issues, was not able to pump the starting something. I'm not remember that, can't recall that, but yeah.
ただいまメインエンジンは着火しましたが SRB-3 は着火しなかった模様です。現在状況を確認中です。
This is an announcement from the Takesaki Range Control Center to all launch operators and personnel. We have a report that the main engine was ignited, but the SRB-3 were not. We are examining the situation.
Oh.
繰り返します。ただいまメインエンジンは着火しましたが SRB-3 は着火しなかった模様です。 現在状況を確認中です。
Repeat. This is an announcement from the Takesaki Range Control Center to all launch operators and personnel. We have a report that the main engine was ignited, but the solid boosters were not. We are now confirming the situation.
はい、打ち上がっているはずの時間になりましたが、
Sebastian, that
So
is
it should have
something.
been launched, but the DAICHI-3 launch vehicle still remains in the launch pad, and there was a broadcast or announcement. Based on the announcement,
Well.
the engine was ignited, but SRB3 did not ignite. We are still confirming facts, and so in regards to what had happened, we will provide you with an official report, but we are still trying to confirm the details, so please bear with us.
All right. So yes, one of the probable cause is written in the chat. Sorry, I can't read your name, but that's in Japanese. I don't know that, but maybe one of the reason SRB didn't start because the main engine did not achieve the full thrust. So in the code they must have written this statement that the SRBs would ignite only when the engines have achieved the full thrust. But also they might have written this also that the engines should wait for like 3 seconds or so after they are ignited for the SRBs to ignite. If they don't, then they shut down the engines. So or might be some technical glitch, but if there is some technical glitch with the ignition of the SRB, then oh boy, that's a very this is the first time I am actually seeing the SRB not getting ignited. The very first time, because SRB ignition is the easiest thing of all. It's a very easy thing to do, and it almost every time works. I'm not so sure why it can only happen according to me if the ignition command is just not given to the igniter of the SRB. So maybe the reason might be that. I'm not so sure, but could be that the main engine did not achieve the full thrust and SRB did not ignite. But yeah, this is the first time, literally the first time I've ever heard and seeing that the cause for the liftoff is not the liquid fuel engine, but the SRBs, which are very simple actually to ignite. But let's hope she's still standing good. And yes, that sound which you all heard was, as Space Maniac Zach said, was the propellant they need to quickly depressurize because overpressure happens. This you also see in the Starship static fires. After the static fire happens, there is a vent which opens that it has to depressurize it quickly. So that was the sound, but that sound also getting recorded was something. So yeah, that is there. Yes, that is also a thing. Now we are waiting for some. This is not going to happen. The launch is not going to happen for sure. We might get to know the reason, but I really like that they immediately broadcasted the reason for this liftoff not happening at that point of time. I really like that. And let me see if we have anything else to see.
SRB3 は着火しなかった模様です。状況確認には時間を要する見込みです。分かり次第、打ち上げ関係者に別途連絡いたします。これをもちまして、本日の H3 ロケット試験機1号機の打ち上げ実況放送を終了します。
This is an announcement from the Takesaki Range Control Center to all launch operators and personnel. The main engine was ignited, but the solid boosters were not. It is expected that it will take longer to examine the situation. The status of A3 launch vehicle test flight number 1 will be announced to all launch operators as soon as it will be confirmed. We are ending today's launch status report.
繰り返します。先ほどメインエンジンは着火しましたが、SRB-3 は着火しなかった模様です。状況確認には時間を要する見込みです。分かり次第、打ち上げ関係者に別途連絡いたします。これをもちまして、本日の H3 ロケット試験機1号機の打ち上げ実況放送を終了します。
Repeat. The main engines were ignited, but the solid boosters were not. It is expected that it will take longer to examine the situation. The status of A3 launch vehicle number 1 will be announced to all launch operators as soon as it will be confirmed. We are ending today's launch status report.
All right, so there's that, guys. It will obviously take them a bit longer to examine what actually happened, but it is safe to say we might get to know the reason for the abort, uh, maybe a proper reason, but it's not gonna happen today.
And as was reported, the main engine did ignite, but SRB-3 seemed not to have ignited. But specifically, we don't know the reason as to why this did occur. It might take some time, but as a fact, about 6 seconds before the launch, the main engine ignited and it becomes stable, and count 0 SRB-3 was to be ignited, but unfortunately it didn't ignite, and we're trying to investigate the reason for this, and so still trying to confirm the details. And we will continue with this live broadcast for a little more while. And if we identify the reason, we will communicate the cause. But we are still trying to confirm the details. So if you could bear with us a little bit more, and this live stream is continuing for a little while more.
Okay, cool. And they really look sad for sure. I haven't seen the launch commentators being sad after this. If it's an abort, their reaction is always kind of a neutral one, but I don't know how things work in Japan, so there might be. But as he said one more thing, that the engine was stable, but at plus 0 seconds the RB was supposed to ignite. Still looking, we need to see what was the reason, but I don't think so there was a failure with the ignition igniter, basically, because uh, if that was the case, imagine only one SRB ignited and the other did not. How would that look like? Whoa, that would be something. At that point of time, if only one ignited and the other did not, then dude, the thrust vector control would need to do all of the work for it to be stable, the rocket to be stable. I'm not so sure whether it would even be able to lift off from the pad safely, but that would have been something. But let's see. GSLV D1, that happened. Solid did not. I did not. I may have missed it. This is the first time I am encountering a solid issue with the ignition of the solid issue. Might be a case. I might have left it. Okay. We'll definitely read it, but yeah, right now just enjoy some views of the rocket, and let me see if I can also find something about this thing, if we have any other announcement or something. Okay, they did not find anything for now. Insulation on the L40s caught fire and one of them had to swapped out. Oh, so it was not a solid issue, that was something else. Okay. There's a talk of main engine ignition failure. The truth is unknown. Main engine, we saw the ignition did happen, so that is I'm not so sure that is how true that must be, but for sure we saw the main engine ignited, but how well it ignited, that's still a concern. Maybe that would have been a concern. It may not have got the full thrust. We'll have to wait and see. Yes, in hobby rockets we do that, and in this I have actually seen a SRB igniter. So SRB igniter itself is a SRB. Do you know that? It's a very small SRB, and yes, it is ignited with some sort of electrical, if I'm not wrong, and the flames are put out of small holes, and those flames are responsible for igniting the whole SRB. So this is how the ignition actually works in an SRB. So
we have not been able to obtain any new information at this point in time, but I apologize for having everyone wait, but there was a report before in the broadcast, and they were only talking about what had occurred as a phenomenon. So the main engine did ignite, but SRB3 did not ignite, and this was quite obvious by looking at it as well. What I thought was that normally the main engine 6 minutes before the launch would be ignited, and when it becomes stable and when the count is 0, then SRB3 should have been ignited. But it seems that that did not occur, and they are investigating the cause for this. And we were hopeful of being able to communicate the reason, but we are still waiting for updated information. But we are still trying to confirm the situation. And so if you could bear with us, we will still continuing the live stream.
Yep, he also suspects that he's that person is basically, he was into development of this rocket, so he knows ins and outs of this rocket, and he also suspects maybe the main ignition did happen, but it did not achieve the full proper thrust or a proper ignition and a full thrust. It may not have been stable, so that's the reason why the SRB decided to not, the computer decided to not ignite the SRBs, because I don't think so this is an SRB ignition issue. This must be an issue with something else. The ignition command itself did not go. In my opinion, the ignition command itself did not go to the SRBs because of some other reasons, and one of the reason could be the proper main engine ignition. So let's see what we can find out. But still she's standing on the pad, and nothing has happened. Everything is fine in terms of the rocket, so still a pass, still a maiden flight remains. So this launch not happening is always better. The scrub is always better than a RUD, right? So let's hope they get to figure out what actually happened, and we get to see the engine ignition soon, but not today for sure. Yes, Dev-Pratim. Actually, also the flames were kind of pinkish, not so sure why, because this one is a regeneratively cooled engine. So Not so sure. Maybe something, the ablative coating must be there inside of it. It can happen. It can happen that they decide to have it inside the nozzle rather than the outside. But it's a regeneratively cooled. Oh no, that could not be the case. Not so sure about the architecture of this, so can't comment about it until unless I am sure. What could launch to BC? What's TBC? To be what? Continued? Okay, maybe. Yes, it felt like that only. Turbines spooling, but if the turbines were spooling, what they were doing exactly? Okay, yeah, it was whatever the it was in the state of ignition, right? So, but it did not feel like it is coming. It always felt like it is increasing and not coming down. So yeah, okay, yeah. For initially it would feel like that only because there is some fuel which is flowing inside the pipeline, and that could have caused even after the ignition did not happen, after the ignition off, fuel was still flowing, and that could have caused the turbines to spool up a bit more. So that could be the case. The pressure was released, I can understand, but I don't think so that they would release the pressure from the engine itself, because that is kind of not how you cut off your engine, right? There may be some residual flame which might be left, and don't follow the path of the release until unless you are for sure that engine has been fully shut down. Still, I am again saying I need to go and look into the architecture of this engine. This is a new engine, so I am also not so sure about it, and there is no documentation or something which I can read about this engine. Otherwise I would have told you only. I did not find it, so I'll try to search more and see how the architecture, because this is an interesting one. How did they establish, how did they manage to overcome that expander bleed cycle on the first stage in the problem? So need to look into that, see what happens. Yeah, that was a turbine sound, and I'm sure about that, Wildflower. But was it the pressure that was released through the turbines, or just the fuel which was left inside the pipelines that got released? That is the thing. Yes, Depratim, I have been up. I slept at around 2 a.m. and then woke up at 4 a.m. So just a 2-hour sleep, and then now I'll have to go to my work. I'll go to my work at 9 or so, and then I'll come back at 10 or 11 p.m. So it will be a very hectic day for me, for sure. But that's what I do, right? This was a important launch, a first launch, and I need to cover it. So yes, this is what I have to do. Space is hard, definitely, Alvaro Chavez. Ignition got problem. Okay, Okay, you were in military. You must have knowing all that stuff pretty well. So I can say that was yeah. I am not disagreeing with that. That was a turbine sound for sure. But what caused that turbine sound? Was it the release of the pressure from the tanks, or just the fuel which was left inside the engine that was released? Because if they have to release the pressure, then there is always an option where to release the pressure through those vents which are used for the bleeding vents, which are used to release the pressure of the tanks during the fueling process. Because the Starship also has another vent to release the pressure at the top of it. See, again, every rocket has a different architecture. How they handle it depend on the technicalities they face, difficulties they faced, and what solution they came up with. So again, we need to look into the manual of this rocket. Okay, currently confirming the status. Wait for a while. Yes, yes. If this would have been another, maybe not so sure, but they are confirming the status, and we are here to know about the status. And yes, still, let's see what we get to know about this one. But yeah, there are some more orgs which would have cut the broadcast as soon as possible, but kudos to them, they did not.
apologize for having to make you wait. We have no updated information. And if I repeat, the main engine did ignite, but SRB-3 did not ignite. We are still trying to confirm the situation. I repeat, the main engine successfully ignited, but SRB-3 did not ignite. And we are still trying to identify the cause. And it would have been nice if we were able to explain what had happened, but it is taking time to identify the true cause, and so it seems that we will not be able to tell you the exact cause. But the main engine did actually ignite 6 seconds before the count was 0. I think you may have been able to see it. At the count of 0, SRB-3 should have ignited, but unfortunately that did not happen. And additional information is not expected to be made available within the next few minutes, and so we'd like to conclude the live streaming of the HR-3 launch vehicle test flight number 1. More detailed information will be made available on JAXA's website, so please refer to the website. And I truly apologize for those people who were very much looking forward to the launch, but hopefully we'll be able to regroup and go to the launch again. But the detailed information will be made available on the JAXA's the website. Thank you very much for joining us for the live streaming today. Thank you.
Alrighty, we did not get to the we did not see the cause, but obviously we got to see some good things, and they'll have to investigate, and I'll keep you updated what actually happened on the Twitter. So do follow me on Twitter at RocketGyan is my handle. You can check the description. But right now wait, once over a year ago had failure but just got off ground, just a flew. Acha, that one. How can I forget that? The Astra rocket, right? LV003 or 006, but 006. The name is thing, but the Astra rocket 3.0. That is I have given that rocket the naughtiest rocket of all. It is actually that. It has caused so many problems, and has had its shenanigans all the time. So yeah, that is that. But right now for this one, guys, the launch did not happen. It was a scrub. It was an hot fire abort, to be precise. We all were waiting for the maiden flight to happen, but that did not, because there was the main engine ignition did happen, but the SRB did not ignite. And specifically they said SRB-3. I'm not so sure what that means. SRB-3, okay. We'll get to see, we'll get to know about that. Yeah, so we got to see the launch. We did not see the launch, but we got to see the beautiful rocket and its contents. So hopefully they figure it out what actually happened. We get to know the reason as well as they resolve it, and we soon get to see this rocket fly, because this has been way overdue. And once this comes in operation, then hopefully you will see Japan doing a lot more launches than before. Even in this 2023 itself, there were like 8 to 9 launches of H3 rocket itself was planned. So hopefully let's hope this issue does not take much time for them to resolve, and they are on the pad once again. And hopefully we get to see the launch, and they get to complete their 8 to 9 mission quota of the 2023. So let's hope. We are going to see a successful launch next time. So until then, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you liked the stream. If you did, give it a thumbs up, And if you want to support me, it would be great if you can become a member or a Patreon. Links are down in the description. Do check that out. And yeah, the next launch, let's see which next launch do we have. I guess that is the Starlink launch, so that's not, I'm not gonna cover. But we have an Inmarsat 6 launch on 18th of Feb, so tomorrow only. Let's hope I may be able to cover that. And then the Soyuz is also there. So there are a couple of launches, not couple, a few launches in Feb, and we'll see. We might get to see the Terran 1 maiden flight also in Feb, as well as other Vulcan was supposed to happen in Feb. What about that? Okay, that's not happening in Feb now, but there are many Starlink launches, many. Okay, so thank you so much. And yes, I will for sure there, Pratik. Tall chai and 2 jalebis, sure. Wildflower, cool. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And until then, this is Priyan Shirola. You just saw Rocket Gyan. Stay safe, stay healthy, and